computer. Good morning. Happy Monday. Happy Condo Monday. How's that? We are talking about working with condos because, guys, it is not the same thing. Let's just say that. And I have some amazing agents, very wonderful agents who've been in this industry for years that recently have had big issues when dealing with condos. And there are things that have been always that way with condos, and there's even new things with condos. So you guys have to understand, you can't, I mean, you can not work with a whole residential group of property. You could do that. Why would you want to, guys? That's a whole area of sales that you could be missing, right? I mean, just say that. Now, the other thing is, just because you don't know something doesn't mean you can't learn it. You can teach an old dog new tricks. You can. I'm living proof. So is Maria. Maria said she's living proof. Okay, you can learn this, you can master this. It is not that complicated, but you have to know the nuances. That's the thing. Okay. So I'm just going to jump right on in, share my screen, and just wish that the people who really need to be here were here. But I can just say they're not. So then there's that. Okay. Here we go. So first of all, let's point out a couple things that everyone should know, but maybe they don't. In dot loop, you guys know that I'm the dot loop person. I have for you guys a dot loop condo listing folder and a condo sales folder. There's a reason I break it out, because the documents are different. Please, when you create the loop, do not create it in the beginning. Just put the address and then keep going. Do not use that template because those things are wrong. And then you get everything in there and you may not get all the good stuff. Just create an empty loop and then go in here and add your documents one at a time. This will give you the best documents. Santa Malfi. So this is the best way to do it. So no matter what office you're under, condo listing documents will all be here. Now, the exclusive right of sale listing agreement on the condo listing is exactly the same as the exclusive right of sale listing agreement on a purchase, on a regular residential. The same thing holds when you go into the listing and to the purchase. Goodness, I have to drink my coffee. If you go into the sale, whether you want to buy with the as is or the residential contract, they're exactly the same, guys. When you're buying or selling, the purchase contracts or the listing contracts are the exact same. Is there any questions on that? That is not the documents that change. What changes are the supplemental documents that go with it. And this is where everybody messes up because they think that everything is the same, right? Now, listen, let me ask you guys a question. Seller's disclosure. This is a big one. Seller's disclosure is not an addenda, right? You don't check it on the back of a purchase contract, do you? Right? But it has to go with it. Now, here's a question. Is the seller's disclosure required by Florida state, the state of Florida? Anybody think it is? Anna's like, I'm not answering you because I'm new and I don't want to even know. That's okay. Anybody online want to answer? Everyone's silent. Nobody.
Yes, I think it is. I think it is required by the state of Florida.
Okay, Alejandro thinks it's required. What do you think, Luz?
No, I don't think so. What about if the seller haven't living in the property?
So you think if the seller has not lived in the property, they don't require a disclosure? That's interesting. What do you think, Shandy? I think Shandy's got this face. I love the face. The face of, oh God, that made sense. Now I don't know. Anybody else online want to say something on this? The seller's disclosure? Lisa, what do you got?
I think it's required.
Okay, this is so much fun. You ready, guys? It is not.
Yeah.
The state of Florida does not require a seller's disclosure. They cannot require a seller's disclosure, but they can require the seller to disclose. So that is the caveat. So right here in the listing agreement, it states seller's obligation. Seller underline 99 must make all legally required disclosures, including all facts that materially affect the property's value that are not readily observable or known by the buyer. The seller certifies and represents that the seller knows of no such material facts, government code, building code violations, unobservable defects, any other the following. And there's one little line. Okay. The reason that we have the seller's disclosure is we don't feel that this one little line is sufficient to jog the seller's memory of all the potential things that they could get sued for. So to help, the legal teams have created the seller's disclosure to assist in trying to help the sellers disclose all the things that they could possibly want to come up with that could potentially affect the property's value. That's the whole point. If there's a problem with the roof, do you think it'll materially affect the value of the property? Absolutely. If there's some problem with plumbing, like, oh, I don't know, polybutylene piping, you think that'll materially affect the value of the property? Absolutely. So that is the purpose of the seller's disclosure. You don't actually need that piece of paper, but you do need to disclose, and you do need to disclose in writing. So what we tell the seller is you need to use these to help you. Now, if you don't know anything, to your point, Luce, please say you don't know. Check the I don't know box, because at least you're saying something. At least you're saying something. And when you're saying something, it makes it harder for them to sue you. Okay. Now, we're in a litigious time right now. Anyone can sue you for anything, but anything that's going to help protect you is what you're trying for, right? The number one reason people get sued, buyers and sellers, is non-disclosure. That is a number one lawsuit that happens from real estate. And I can tell you, I see it.
Can I ask a quick question?
Please.
I had a condo sale a couple of years ago, and the water heater was replaced by my seller.
Mm-hmm.
The buyer's agent texted me a couple of days ago and said, can you tell me who installed the water heater? Because I don't see a permit pulled. And I said, well, I installed mine before they didn't pull a permit either, but I can ask who installed it. And I said, why? What happened? Oh, it started leaking and flooded the unit
Now, first of all, when did they buy?
3 years ago.
3 years ago. Well, so here's the thing. The question's going to be, was it still under warranty? Probably not. Yeah, probably not. So do they have homeowners insurance? Probably do. So that's probably what it's really going to go after. It's going to go under the homeowners insurance. So they're really reaching on that one, right? So that really would have been a better answer. But yeah. Okay, so but great question. All right, so do you guys see this now? I want to point out a big thing to here though. When it comes to seller's disclosure in a condo, it's not the same disclosure. In a condo, does the seller own the roof? Does the seller have any direct relation to the roof? No. So there's a completely different seller's disclosure. Let's go to it. It is in here, seller's property disclosure condominium. Can I tell you, people who are not on this call here today who should be, we have situations currently going on that we had a condominium that went out with a seller's disclosure for residential. That doesn't work, does it? No, because let's look at the things they're going to ask about. The structures and appliances. Is the roof a common element maintained by the association? That's a little different. Well, obviously, right? Now, they ask about now, to your knowledge, if you don't have a knowledge, you just say, I don't know. Now, some of these things you have to go and ask the association, because we're going to go down here. Termites, wood storing organisms, water intrusion, plumbing, fire protection improvements, hazardous, limited common elements. And here it's all about the association. This is stuff that a lender is probably going to want to know too, if there's a loan involved, right? So these are things that are going to be, is there any proposed changes to the association's governing documents? Guys, that's a big one. Because if they're going to be, funny, same case, adding in, I don't know, $15,000 assessment, you might want to know that. That would have been good to put here, right? Has there been any proposed plan to materially alter the common elements? Right? You might need to know. Is there anything existing that threatening legal action against the association? Remember, Celebration forever had that lawsuit against the bottom corner basement properties, right? Forever. These are things that you have to make sure you're putting in here. Then there's a FERPTA one, right? This is all stuff that is only pertinent to a condominium. You have to use the proper seller's disclosure. And if they're not disclosing this, guess what's gonna happen? A, if there's a loan, they probably won't get it, right? Number one. And B, if they're not gonna be using this, this is the first thing they're gonna get sued for.
Well, if there's a loan, they'll have the lender will require the condo.
Exactly. But I'm just saying, if there's no loan, right, it's cash, and these things come up later and they didn't do this, they're gonna get sued for lack of disclosure. Because they're gonna say, you knew, because guess what? Most associations, I can't say all, but I'm gonna say most associations have a website where all the owners have access to, and they give all the notifications online, and they try to notify them in mail and blah, 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 as to maybe there has been a proposed change to the governing documents. Maybe there has been some kind of new assessments that are upcoming. So when the owner says, oh, I didn't know, it's like culpable negligence. You should have known because you had access to it. They've been trying to reach you. You can't just say, whoopsie, had no idea. If they come after you to sue you because suddenly they're getting charged $20,000 for some new a special assessment, guess what? They're probably going to win. Yeah. Land condos. So what do you, what part of that? Uh-huh.
It's a land condo. So all the common areas held in condo, but the individual homes are individually owned, but it says it's a condo, even though it's not. If they are not attached, they're not attached.
So I think generally, it's a whole different animal, so. like,
You're
for
just
example-
saying the land itself is common. That's very,
Condo, so,
It does,
so
yeah.
appraisers
Yeah.
get all that stuff, lenders
Are
get
you
all
like
that
in
stuff.
Phillips Bay or something?
Phillips Code.
Phillips, yeah.
yeah, that's really weird. The home itself, that's a great question. If there's a lender, I mean, the home, you own the home, it's a single structure. That would be a regular
It's really
seller's
easy.
disclosure.
Regular sellers.
Yeah, but you would need to get the association's disclosure and condo docs and all of that, because that's still gonna concern the land that you own.
Yeah.
And there could be assessments and things over the land because the land is still a common element.
Right.
Yeah, they really messed that thing up. That's a big old mess.
And
Now,
I'm trying, what's the one that's, it's in Dr. Phillips, it's on the right-hand side, like before you get to 7-Eleven. What is that one called? Because those are,
Oh, yeah, I can't think of the name of it.
but the one, it
Yeah,
backs up to the golf course.
Phillips Bay, isn't it?
I don't know, but anyway, it backs up Phillips Bay. Anyway, those are, it actually, the legal description is a condo,
Same as
but they
land.
are single-family houses.
Right, so there's
Yeah.
a few of those, that's like the old way to do.
It's
like,
really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really weird thing. But
Okay.
the truth is that the owner owns the home
Yeah,
as a
and-
single family
Yeah, yeah.
dwelling.
And
It's
they're
just that the
individually-
common elements are owned as a
And the
condominium.
person also their homeowner's insurance and pay for the roof and.
Yeah, that's what I mean, because they own that. Yeah, yeah.
So you use the other disclosure.
You would use a regular single family disclosure on that. That's an interesting, special, unique case. Yes, thank you for asking that one. Now, typically in a condominium, guys, keep in mind, in a normal condominium, you only own as the owner from the sheetrock in. Sheetrock out is owned by the association, so you own it through your ownership within the association. So that's your plumbing, your electric, the roof, all the big major things are owned through the association. The land below you, all of that. And that's why you have these huge umbrella policies, and the insurance and all the HOA assessments are high. And this is why you have to be very careful. That's why they want to make sure that usually investment ratio is not too high, because what happens is if the investor ratio is too high and they start not paying, guess who's going to have to make up that difference? All the homeowners. And that's why, like, for example, after 2008, 2009, when all those people backed away, actually in Windermere, anybody who knows the town, well, now they've made them all apartments. That's how they were able to allow apartments into Windermere. That was against their plan of Horizon West. They had no apartments in there. And what happened was, they had condominiums that were built by Ashton Woods, and supposedly they had 2,500 people on their list. Right. They closed about 36 of them. These poor people, they paid about $350 for like their condo, right? Well, then the market crashed. Well, nobody could even get financing in the building because they didn't have the ratios enough able to get financing in the building. So what ended up happening was the developer who owns it started renting the units.
Yeah.
That's how they got around the apartment statutes, and that's how they started grandfathering in apartments, and that's how you now have apartments in Windermere. Thank you for that. We love it. But anyway, that's that interesting little story. But the point is, that's a very real thing because the association fees, they get so high because they have to be paid. You can't not have insurance on your building, right? We're
But
gonna,
one thing to keep in mind that has changed ever since Surfside.
oh, we're gonna talk about that.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a big thing. We're gonna talk about that in a second.
Do you have an attorney for someone that's going through that? Like for, do you know where Bermuda Dunes is in Metro West?
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah.
I asked you about this, is the deconversion.
Oh,
Correct.
I
have all their information.
do not understand what they're talking about.
They were apartments.
They were condo conversions, which is terrible because you guys also understand the difference between an apartment and a condo, right? Let me explain real quick.
Construction?
And the construction, an apartment is commercial. So that's why they're wood and they're built really badly. You can hear not just your neighbor, but the neighbor on 10 floors down because they're really poorly made. Condominium is residential. They have to adhere, of course, not residential too, but they have to adhere to stricter building codes. So they're built better. And that's the difference. So when condo conversions became the thing, you got really poor, shabby construction, now residential. That was like,
So now
really?
Bermuda Dunes is going back.
Well, so now they're trying to see about turning it back to apartments. So I don't understand how that would work for the owners, though.
Every person would have to.
Everybody would have to agree and sell.
They were just told last week.
But if you're told, I don't understand how that works. You can't be made to sell.
I think it was just disclosed to them, this is what.
They're trying to do.
Correct.
I don't understand. Well, honestly, if people are suddenly selling out, who wants to stay in the building? So maybe it is a mass exodus. I don't really know.
I guess if they do it as the apartment, it's like a. They'll make a lot of money.
No,
They're not making money. What are they offering them? Or they don't know.
None of that's been disclosed. So should they sell before this happens? But they have to disclose.
I honestly cannot speak to something I have not enough information on. Okay, we're gonna hold that to the end of the conversation because that's a completely different thing.
Okay.
And it's not about, that's a totally different beast and I cannot even talk about it because I really haven't seen docs. I haven't seen anything. All right. So let's go back to condominium. Okay, you actually have a real one. Let's talk about a real condominium. Hopefully a real built condominium too, but sometimes they're kind of conversions and we can't help it. Okay, so that's the seller's disclosure. It's a condominium disclosure. But here is a really important one, guys. It's the condominium, the condo rider A. You have to use this. This along with the documents, which you have to give all the documents, the most recent budget, the articles of incorporation, the declaration, there's all these things that you have to give. Once you give those, all of them, it opens up a 3-day right of rescission. If you don't give them, guess what happens? Whenever you do, could be day of closing, which is not really going to close, right? Because now you have a 3-day right of rescission for the buyer. Another thing that's recently happening. Don't start me. So this is super important. The condominium rider, if you have a loan, they are going to require this. And this says, again, is the association required to approve the buyer or not? Sometimes they are. Sometimes they have to give first right of refusal. See, it says right here, do they have the first right of refusal? That means they get to look at what they make, how they're, sometimes they can even get so invasive how they're going to use it. It depends,
They
right?
have to have certain, in California, there's certain ones you have to have like so much money in cash, or else you're not even.
Oh, yeah.
free.
Well, don't even start me on a co-op in New York City. Please, I don't even want to go there. That was my beginning days. That's a mess. And that you don't even own your unit. You own rights to a unit. They can move you. Oh, yeah, special times. So members of the association can or cannot have the right to also make it contingent. So it could not only be the association, it could be the members. Could you imagine? I'm sorry, you're gonna open up all my whole insides of my life to the no. But that could be the case. I've not really seen that here in Central Florida where they've gotten that invasive. Yeah, I know. Okay, buyer and seller shall have usually within 5 days to get all documents that are required for them to look at right there, right? So that they can decide. They have to have that. And if stated within the time period of the association, see, this is the problem. Who can get the documents? Can the buyer get it? No, they're not members. Can the agents get them?
I was referring to homewise.com.
It's horrible. It's supposed to be the seller, guys, because the seller is the only one who's a member of the association. Because when they bought, they became a member, whether they wanted to or not. That's what happened, right? So it's the seller. When you list a condo, you're supposed to go to the seller and say, you need to get me these documents. And if they are like, oh, I don't know how to, then they better figure it out. You can assist them, but they're the ones who have the authority to get it. That's the problem. And so many times the listing agent, if you're on the buy side, they're like, you have to get it. They're the worst. So if you're running a contract, you can put it in there. It's contingent upon you doing it. Now, I want you to see something right here. We're going to look at this. Right here. Okay. Now it tells you the fees and assessments. Are they monthly? Are they quarterly? Is there an assessment fee? Is there a recreation fee? Okay. In the villages, they have a recreation fee. They say they don't have an association fee. Interesting. People call them all different things, right? Now, this is important. Special assessments. Has there been anything on the agenda in the minutes talking about special assessments? Who's going to pay for them? The buyer, the seller? Like, we have to talk about this, right? These are the special assessments that you have to disclose them. Are they pending? Have they been approved? This is where you disclose all that, not after they close. And then they're going to come back and sue the seller, because that's what's going to happen.
You guys need to be especially careful if it's cash.
Yes.
Because if it's a mortgage, we will be delving into all of that.
Right.
We're gonna be bugging people for stuff, but if they're paying cash, you need to be especially.
Yeah, because they pay cash and then they find out they have to come back and pay a $25,000 assessment for something we're going to talk about in a second. Don't you think for 1 second they're not going to come back after that seller and say, you knew and you now need to pay for it, because that is a lack of disclosure. Because you know what? It was. It was. Good luck. They'll win that every time. Now, if special assessments levied or pending exist as of the effective date and have not been disclosed, the seller shall pay in full at the time of closing. But that's if they find out about them. What if they happen after? That's when lawsuits happen. So here, you get to the closing table, the seller can get levied, like let's say the homeowners association. If you find out about it, right there, if you're on the buy side, you can now charge the seller. Because it says it right there.
That didn't show up anywhere in the title.
No, because oftentimes the homeowners association hasn't done anything about it. Yeah, exactly. So if after the effective date, the association imposes a special assessments for improvement, and it was not pending as of the effective date, the seller shall pay installments due before the closing date, and the buyer shall pay the amounts after. So this is saying all that. If you want it to be something different, you need to know that and put that in your contract if you're representing the buyer. Special assessment shall be deemed levied for the purpose of this paragraph the date the assessment has been approved as required for enforcement for Florida law. So you got to understand that they could be talking about it for a long time, but when did the association approve this special assessment? You need to know that. And then here, this is about litigation. Seller represents the seller is not aware of any pending or anticipated litigation. Sometimes there is litigation on common elements.
There's red flags all over that.
Yes.
Because then the association could be liable for a huge lawsuit, like a slip and fall and crap like that. And then sometimes it's the developer who didn't do great drywall or stucco or something. It can be.
That was Celebration.
Yeah.
It was stucco. And it was only the corner units. And my God, that thing went on for years. I don't know when they finally fixed that, but that thing went on forever. And that was against association. Crazy. Now look at this, guys. You, as the buyer's agent, better be very, very cautious when you look at this. And you, as the listing agent, also better be cautious. And this is something that we've been back and forth with. The buyer hereby acknowledges, this is A, the buyer has been provided a current copy of the Declaration of Condominium, Articles of Incorporation of the Association, bylaws and rules of the association, because they have to know what the rules are to be able to agree to them, right? Copy of the most recent year-end financials. You got to know what the financials are, because how can you determine if you want to be part of that if they're not good in a good financial situation? Because if people stop paying, then it's the buyer who's going to be the one on the hook, right? That's why they need to see that. And frequently ask questions and answer documents. And then 3 days, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. So these are 3 business days. It gives them, opens up that right of rescission. See that?
Carrie,
Then-
I'm
Mhm.
sorry, Carrie, will you do a screen share with what you're looking at?
Are you guys not?
I can't see it. Can everyone else? I don't know.
I don't know. That's
saw it.
weird. That's, yeah, they were seeing it.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Here, can you see it now, Kara? I just
Yeah.
reshared.
Yes.
That's weird. Okay. Well, good. I'm glad you can see it now.
Thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome. And then B, this agreement is voidable by the buyer by delivering written notice of the buyer's intention to cancel within 3 days, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays. So notice these are 3 business days after the copy of all those things have been received. So you want to check one of these. You want to check B if you're representing the buyer. Notice that many times, if they're uploaded for you, A is checked. I like to have A checked myself.
3 days.
Exactly. It starts your 3 days immediately. So I like it too, but only if you actually have all of those things. So we have a situation where we didn't get all those things. We never got the financials. Now they're saying, try to prove it. Now you're gonna get in a lawsuit. Yeah.
So if you put it in your documents when you have a listing, does that count?
It does, but if we didn't verify that we had it all, they're trying to say, well, you said that you had it, you checked that. Then here it says the buyer either requests or does not request a copy. They had checked, does not request.
But this would be like an insurance. You should
Well,
check out-
again, if you're the buyer filling this out, you would say you're requesting it, but they had it filled out saying does not request.
But I'm saying, if they check the 5A automatically.
Yeah.
6 checking requests would be an insurance.
Yes, but they had it checked does not
I don't
request.
know.
But yes, you're right. And then it would have a conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it says the buyer received the documents and they put the date,
So who did this? Who filled it out?
the listing agent. Yep. Well, if you actually have it all, it's fine. It's actually being diligent. But it's not diligent when you don't have all of those items.
The buyer's.
The buyer didn't know.
Perhaps it'd be helpful to just try to have a checklist specifically for what everything is.
Right, but again, it's right here. It tells you all the things. Declaration of condominium, articles of incorporation, association bylaws, rules of copy of most recent year-end financials. That's what was missing. And frequently asked and I think the frequently asked questions was missing too.
And no insurance either, which is a shame.
Yeah, isn't that
Extra
terrible?
Insurance policy, that would be nice.
That would be nice to have, but that's not a requirement. Yeah. So isn't that interesting? Then if you have a
Hey, Karen.
policy, yes. Yes,
Sorry. So after the fact, after this document,
yeah,
if you need to have, can you have something signed by the buyer to say, yes, they confirm receiving everything?
yes. Yes, you can. And you can even put it in an
And
addendum.
and is that,
Mhm.
that's, okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
Once they receive it, yes. Yeah, you want to, because you want to notify when they've gotten that, so that starts the 3-day ticking. Absolutely. Now here, it tells you right here. This is very important. This is the new thing in regards to what you were talking about after the surf side. The governance forum milestone inspection report, guys, this is super important in condominiums. This is the new law from chapter 718 that the buyer is entitled to receive from the seller a copy of the governance form from the Division of Condominiums. And the milestone inspection, there's two parts to this. You have one where they're studying the infrastructure of the building, right? Because a lot of times these condominiums, imagine they're big, right? It has to be over, and it tells you right here, the buyer who's entered into this contract as seller's expense to receive this from the seller before the sale of the property, a copy of the inspector prepared summary of the milestone inspection report as described here in Florida statute rules has been submitted. I want to see, and then the integrity reserve study. The buyer gets this at the seller's expense from the seller before the sale of the property, copy of the association's most recent structural integrity reserve study. The reason for this is, I believe if it's on the water, it has to be 25 years or older. If it's away from the water 5 miles, I think it is, it's 30 years. It has to be over 3 feet, 3 stories.
Is it 3 and above or 3?
I think it's above 3. I think
it's
3 and above, actually. But the point is, if it is here, obviously we don't have to worry about the water, right? Unless you're on the coast. But if it's 30 years old here, you have to have a infrastructure study done. And I think by this year is the year that they had to do it by. I think it was 2024.
And those in themselves, just the report, the study is expensive at the HOAS rate.
Yeah.
And then they have to pay for the repairs.
Yeah. And what happens is, imagine, guys, every time, like when we built condos, now we built them way better because we didn't just do concrete all the way up. We also did concrete flooring. That every time you put concrete, it makes your footers bigger, bigger, bigger. But not everybody built them really well. And so what happens is, we have sand, right? We're on sand. And so these things start to settle just like the house. And so that structure of how this is may need to be repaired and revised to make sure it can stay standing. That's what happened. And on the water, imagine the erosion is eating away at that concrete. So sometimes they have to certify and
salt.
Yeah, of course, eats away at it. Well, so a lot of that has to be, they have to make sure it's being maintained to be able to keep the weight of the structure very secure. That's a lot of what that is about. So the other part of this is most homeowners association are run by the owners, right? For years. Imagine they're 25, 30 years plus, right? And so over time, they're like, we got plenty of money. Let's just bring the fees back a little. That's what happens. And then now you realize, oh my gosh, we have to really reinforce all of our rebar. We have to reinforce all of our concrete. That's going to cost, $250,000, $500,000, $1 million, whatever it is, right? And we have to divide that by all of our people, our owners. We don't have the money in our reserve to do that. There are buildings where it costs more than it would cost to buy in that building to reinforce that building. You just have to take that building down. And this is where, especially along the coastline, where a lot of these things are going to come into play, because if people were not giving that, and then imagine you close and you find out you have an assessment for $350,000 and you just bought that unit for $250,000. You're suing. There's no doubt about that, right? Here, I don't think it will be quite as bad, but I mean, we just saw one for $15,000. I mean, I know Luciana had one for like $25,000 on her building. So they are definitely having these because the reserves have not been kept up to meet the potential cost of reinforcing the structure. So that's the problem. So that's the importance of these reports. And it's really important that your buyers are receiving them. And if they're not,
That looks like you could do it right after closing.
well, they need to get this milestone, and then that you should be asking for this, in my opinion.
Saying though, but
No, you're right. It doesn't start a right of rescission. I don't believe it does.
And Terry,
Yes.
sorry, I just had a question. I think that was in line with what Maria was asking, but because I was reading where it says section C, it just says that you have to provide it to or from the seller before closing. So is there any protection period? Let's say that the seller can't furnish that until, let's say, the night before closing or 2 days before closing. and the deal falls through because of that. I mean, is there anything that states that you have to get it to the buyer within first 3 days or X amount of period?
I don't know of anything on any of the documents that states that. So who's to say that you couldn't write it in, actually? I would probably add it to your contract for sure, because, especially if you're buying on the coast, Luce, that's a good one for you. Just because, and in an older building, for sure. Because in the condominium, frequently asked questions, again, it doesn't have anything about that. And then, maybe if you're getting financing, that would save you, as long as your financing contingency is extended, right? Or covers you. But if you're cash, I would write it into the contract. That's a good point.
What are you writing?
The milestone report and the instructional integrity report, as well as the reserve study, there's no time frame. They could get it to you at closing, right? But if you have financing, that'll hold you back. So as long as your financing contingency goes to the end, you're covered because you won't get financing. But if you're cash, you could be in trouble. What if they say, oh yeah, this is going to cost a ton of money by the time we do all these things. We don't have the reserves to cover when this needs to be done, right? Now you're buying into a building that you realize needs a ton of work. So if you write in there that you'll receive it within the first 5 days, or during inspection or something like that, yeah, that's a good idea.
That only applies if the deadline for the 25 years or the 30 years.
25 years or 30 years, and above 3 stories or above. Yeah, and if it's under 3 stories, and it doesn't apply, right?
But then you can have all these problems.
Well, they're not going to do the milestone reports and the integrity study reports if it's under 3 stories. But the age, yeah, it's going to happen in a couple of years, and then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
100%. Welcome to Florida.
No, I know. It's like actually in a couple of years.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Mhm. I mean, a lot of these buildings have lasted. Look in New York City, we've had, these buildings have lasted for hundreds of years. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but we have pre-war buildings, right? And they're still standing, they've lasted a long time. However, the water, the fact that we're on sand, I mean, we do have some things that we have to contend with that you don't have up there. You have rock, you don't have the same kind of situation with the water. You don't have the situation, with the hurricanes like we have. So we do have a lot more we have to worry about here for sure. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, Maria, you have a question?
Yes, about the 3 forms that we have to provide. Are all those, the seller doesn't have to pay for that, or do you know that those has to be
Well,
provided by
sometimes the
the association?
associations do require, like the condo questionnaire, sometimes they charge a couple $100.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
when you're getting a mortgage, typically the buyer pays for the condo questionnaire. Because that is not part of those things you mentioned, I don't think.
There is a questionnaire in that.
Was it on the
Yep.
list?
Yep. It is. Sure is. It says right here,
Doesn't say question.
frequently asked questions and answer document.
That's not condo, that's not the condo questionnaire. I don't believe.
Frequently asked questions is different than the condo questionnaire. Of course, they have to make it different. Okay.
So that's what I believe, I just know that typically it's about $495.
Up to
for a buyer-
$495
for
now?
a buyer
Oh
to
my
get.
God.
So we use a company that does all this for us. Because if I have to go onto the company, you're like, what was the one you said the other day? HomeWise, or everybody has these different
Mhm.
management companies that
Yeah.
you would go to their website and I have to order it.
Right.
Usually I have to get the buyer's credit card number.
Mhm.
It's anywhere from 200, and now sometimes we're lucky and it's just a person that does it.
Yeah.
And they'll fill out the form for free.
Right.
But can you go into, isn't there like a Fannie Freddie? I don't know if
Yes.
it's a database.
I have a database.
Yeah, you're going to share.
Yeah, I can share.
She's going to do right now. The other thing you need to realize too, financing, like let's say it's a VA, there's very few buildings that are actually VA approved. There's a very specific list of VA approved condominiums, and there's not many of them. Nope.
How
So
do I
what-
do it?
What do you do?
Use the green button on the bottom, see share, screen share.
What happens if you find out that a particular unit is not financeable and the listing agent finds that out, but it's still being advertised as financing. Is there any?
Are you the listing agent or are you the
No,
buyer's agent?
We were inquiring on.
Well, there's two things. If you're really nice and the listing agent's nice, you could just let them know.
That it-
If they're not, you can put it as a listing violation in MLS. That's my favorite thing to do. Listing violation. I'm a frequent flyer to that one.
Mary, those are
We have to
anonymous.
clean it up. What was that?
Those are anonymous when you click them, right?
Yeah,
They,
yeah. I would be happy if they weren't. I don't care. Let them know it's me. I'm after you. Clean it up. I have to do everybody's job for them, damn it. I'm tired of it.
Okay, so just wanted to show you guys, this is what I look at for myself, like when I'm going to look, and there are. Like here, this is where I usually start is the non-orangeable, because we know we have a problem on the ones that are not approved. So.
Someplace we can go to?
We just asked
you could
Maria.
Probably Google it, I'm not sure.
Just- She'll do it for
Yeah,
you. It's
yeah,
even
just call
easier.
me and I'll look it up, but so I have a list of the ones that are for sure not approved. I have ones that Fannie Mae PERS is the one where the developer originally got it all approved. Those are, they're.
But they have to be recertified, don't they?
Yeah, and they still have to get recertified, but usually if anyone questions, I usually go to the non-warrantable first.
Okay,
Because that'll tell me,
something
for
wrong
sure
with
if
it.
there's a problem. And usually where we have a problem is going to be,
If they have red flags.
Um. So this is the Fannie Mae, this is not the questionnaire, but this is the, some of the issues that you're gonna have. So the Fannie Mae full, so there are a couple different things I wanna talk to you guys about. So Fannie Mae has either a full approval or a limited review.
Mhm.
So anytime you have somebody that's buying as their primary residence, they wanna put just 5% down, that's gonna be a full review. And full review is a big pain in the butt because we see everything. We want the budget, we have to have the questionnaire, we have to know, if there's litigation. A lot of this stuff is gonna move over also to the limited review. But if you can get your customer to put at least in Florida, it's different, 30% down.
Like an investor.
Then, like an investor, then you don't have to go through the full review. But if you know upfront what the issues are, you can decide with your buyer, do I want to know all this stuff so I can get for sure if I want it? Or if you know you want this condo, like your kid's going to college here, you know you want it no matter what, then you probably want to put 30% down so that we can do a limited review. So limited review, they don't care how many investors there are. They don't do the reserve study for the budget.
Really?
Yeah, so it's very different. But if you look at this list, I'm just going to show you guys.
Now, there's a question on the regular questionnaire that says, are the buildings structurally sound? Is that on the limited review?
I would hope
I
so.
think so, yeah.
I would like to
mean,
know.
Yeah, structural issues, sometimes it has nothing to do with the questionnaire too.
Yeah,
When you get the appraisal, they're gonna notice
No,
items too.
it's not this particular
What happened?
complex. It wasn't visible for this building. But on the condo questionnaire, the association would not answer one question.
If they don't answer, they know. They-
Yeah.
They provided a report from 2021 showing that there was stucco issues from some of the other buildings,
Uh-huh.
and it just hasn't been completed. But the listing agent said, oh, well, it's just because Chase is particular. I'm sure another lender will lend.
no.
It's all pretty much the same. We all do the same stuff.
Maybe Mr. Money, but most of the real lenders are not gonna lend on that.
So
Maybe
just so
you
you
hard
know,
money.
some of the things to look for, both as the listing agent and as for your buyers. If more than 15% of the units are past due on their dues. It doesn't happen too much now, but usually when there's a lot of investors.
Yeah.
Or as the economy gets worse and worse, people are gonna be past due.
Mhm.
Usually we don't run into too much trouble on that. The looking at the budget, if you can see on here, the projected budget, we do look very closely at this. And part of looking at the budget, we want to make sure there's enough money in the reserve account to get the new roof.
Mhm.
So all of this stuff is in the budget, and a lot of times you'll see there's not enough money to do what they need to do. So the reserve studies is huge.
Mhm.
I mean, if I were buying a condo, I would want to get the full review. If
I
if
would
it were
too.
me buying a condo, because we're gonna get down and dirty with it, and it's gonna be painful,
Mhm.
okay? There are times though when people don't care about that. They want to just get the loan, and so they're willing to do that. Where I caution you guys is they're gonna be calling you in 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
to sell it.
Right.
And if you can't, maybe you can get a loan now because you choose to put 30% down, your pool of buyers is gonna be reduced considerably if everybody has to put 30% down to get there. And there's even still, even if 30% down, there are some non-starters, things that absolutely you will not get a loan. And one of those is if the HOA, because many HOAs right now have trying to get the dues down. So they go and get a cheaper master insurance policy.
Uh-huh.
Yep, so the master insurance policy, the maximum Fannie and Freddie allows is a 5% deductible. Well, the difference between a 5% deductible and a 10% deductible is huge money for the premium. So the HOAs were going with that. Now they've realized, in fact, Chad and I had one. Luckily they changed back to the 5% deductible, and it could be Fannie Mae approved. But the HOAs are trying to keep the dues reasonable, but they're shooting themselves in the foot.
Mhm.
So that's one thing, if you get, like I said, either listing or the buyer side, get a copy of their master condo insurance policy. Because it'll say right on there, 10% or 5%. If it's a 10% deductible, you're screwed, you're not gonna get a loan at normal interest rates. There are Fannie Mae, non-mortgageable condominiums out there that will allow that.
Yeah, but
if you
imagine,
wanna be.
yeah, because if you need a roof or something, now 10% of the cost of that's an assessment that's gonna go to
Oh,
every,
millions.
it's
So
so
the
much
downtown
money.
building that Chad and I had, it was gonna be 10% was gonna be 21 million I mean, it was some ungodly number.
Yeah.
But if God forbid something happened, you had to put the roof on or something happened,
Yeah,
then they don't have that kind of money. So a
that's
couple
right.
things you're looking for there, aside from their review study or the budget review.
They made it like a
Um,
catastrophic policy
yeah.
versus a real policy.
And so there's some legal stuff that you usually don't run into, parking spaces and stuff like that. This is a big one though, for investment property transactions. You can't have more than 50% investors.
Wow, that's changed. It
Yeah.
used to be much less than that,
That
50%.
apply if the person who's buying it is buying as their primary residence.
Right,
But if you have an investor, so what I find that mostly happens, the investors want to buy in a lower price point.
mhm,
So those lower price points have a lot of investors.
of course.
So then you're more than 50%. Then they're gonna need to put at least 30% down, which makes good sense anyway, because you gotta make the numbers work if you're an investor. So
Yeah,
a lot of times your ROI isn't gonna work unless
yeah, unless you have the less debt service. Yeah.
So, but if you're, think about it from this perspective, if you're a person that's buying there to live there, and there's more than 50% owners, do you really want to have all these people moving in and out?
No,
So
exactly.
maybe not. I mean, it's great information, to get these, documents as much as you can, especially if you're listing this property. If you can glean enough information from a lot of, either from the owner, because they have access to the documents. But they should be able to get you a copy of the insurance, stuff like that. So those are the big things. And I'm going to show you.
Now, I know also that when you have a listing, you can get a building certified, but it's a bit of a process.
And
Is
I
it
don't
harder
know
now?
anybody that likes to do it. It's a
Mm.
ton of work.
Mhm.
I know I have, in all my years, haven't done it. Now you can do it with FHA, what's called a spot approval.
Okay.
So even though it's not an FHA approved condominium,
Mhm.
if it's a real strong condo, like if it would go Fannie Mae anyway,
Yeah,
you could get what's called a Fannie Mae, or sorry, an FHA spot approval. And
Mm.
that's not overly difficult. It's a little bit of a pain, but it's worth it.
so if you're the listing agent, you could get that done and then anybody could buy in there, or it is per buyer? Is it per
You-
unit or per buyer?
You can get it's typically done with a contract. You know what
Okay,
I mean? Like a
so it's
spot
per
deal
buyer.
with the contract.
Mhm.
But you could get it done, and then if that one, for some reason, if it fell through or something weird happened, you could.
But isn't that lengthy though, even the spot?
But that one, that can be done. It can be done within I would give it probably 45 days. I wouldn't do it, try to. do
Which
it
is what I'd
quick.
say is typical for if FHA anyway.
So,
But I'm saying if you have a good condo that you really need to sell, FHA limits is what now? It's like,
$498.
yeah, so that might not be a bad way to sell
If you
it.
want to see the, just what the questionnaires look like. Yeah.
How do you know how much is good reserve for a condo?
It's supposed to be more than 10% of whatever that line is. So if it is something like that.
If it's a building of 30 floor, a building like Miami, that was old.
I don't know the answer to that, but typically.
A lot.
There is a formula.
I used to live in a condo.
Yeah, there is a formula. They want it to be at least 10% of whatever it costs
To maintain it.
to maintain it.
Like in downtown, we have big buildings in downtown, right? I don't know how many floors is the highest one.
Yeah, I don't know how many floors is the highest either, but like how many floors are in the View? Does anybody know? I want to say I don't know. 20 something, but I don't know how many, maybe 24, 25. I'm not sure.
No, I'm not really great. So, yeah.
Because you can ask for a reserve, but how do you know what's good enough?
Well, that's where it's great if you do have a lender because they will tell you if it's
Yeah, and
insufficient.
sometimes I can look at least at the for sure no list. That'll eliminate some stuff right away. And then sometimes I just look at the good list. Sometimes we're lucky and it's already on there. It's already been reviewed.
Yeah,
And then the other thing you guys need to be careful, or you should always look. You can't always get these documents, the questionnaires from the HOA.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
I
gonna wanna
know.
charge you $250, $400, whatever. So just do your own legwork. I typically go in whenever I get a condo. I don't have the access to stuff that you guys have, but I always look to see how many, when you go to OCPA, you can see who's filed homestead or not.
yeah.
So I just try to get a deal, an idea, is it more than 50% renters in there or not, or have they filed homestead? So
Mm,
you guys, I think, have access to something else.
Remind, you
Remind,
might be able to
yes.
do it through Remind.
So whenever you have a
Mhm.
condo with your listing or selling, it's always a good idea to get a feel for that. And then usually the listing agent also says, and I would look in the association itself for what has sold in the last year. And has it been all cash?
Yeah,
A lot of times they'll say it's conventional, but remember, guys, conventional is even a non-warrantable crappy interest rate, 9%. So just because it says conventional, that they've had conventional financing, I would call the agent, whoever had sold that property, to ask them a little bit more about who actually did the financing.
So yeah, I
Mhm.
did that on one of those
Mhm.
with this complex, and
Uh-huh.
she said that, it was your product where it was like first time home buyer, nothing.
Yes,
down.
all right, so one
Oh,
good piece of news,
uh-huh.
one good piece of news, in our Buyer's Advantage program.
Yeah.
Our Opportunity Advantage, if they're buying a condo, we don't do the questionnaire.
Are you kidding?
We
me?
look at the insurance only and the appraisal, and it's very.
is that only in
Only for
certain zip
buyers.
codes?
No, Buyer's Advantage is everywhere.
Everywhere.
If they have a certain income limit,
Oh,
and then, it's by census tract.
yeah,
For just certain, if they have really high income, but,
okay.
but like,
It's first time home buyers only.
no, they just can't own a house at the time of closing, so they could sell and buy. Now, I do have another one called Opportunity Advantage, where they must be first-time home buyers, but that one is only Orange County and Polk County and
Mm.
Duval County.
Duval,
Duval, well, that's the one that Flavia and I did.
okay.
Duval. So, but anyway, I can send you guys, or send them to you. Claire,
Yeah, and
copies
I'll
of the
send them out.
questionnaires,
That'd be
so
great.
You guys can look
Yes.
at, because I don't.
That's okay. Yeah, but that'd be great. I can send
Yeah,
it
and
out.
then you guys can at least see what the questionnaires look like, the questions that they ask. Not, these are the main bugaboos right here that I just went over.
Yeah,
But for the most part, it's pretty standard questions. Litigation is huge.
yeah,
If there's any litigation, if the budget, if they don't have any,
Reserves.
Reserves, and then, the homeowner's insurance has become an issue.
That makes
So-
sense.
So that's
Mark,
the-
what's your question?
Hey, here's like 4 questions actually. What is the difference and distinction between a condominium and the condo hotel?
Okay, condotel and a condominium is the usage rights. So in a condotel, you can only utilize it for a certain period of time. Typically, it's usually a month, like 4 weeks or something like that, but sometimes it's longer. And it's only for investment purposes, so you can never make it your primary residence.
And Mark, those are never gonna be Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac approved. That's one of the questions they ask. And that's on the questionnaire that is also important. And underwriters have been known to do this. They will just Google the name.
Mm,
And if it pops up that the HOA actually owns condos and they rent them out themselves,
they know it's
Forget
condotel.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and they will call it a condo hotel, even if it's not like a monthly rental
Mm,
or an overnight rental. So that is, sorry, that was, thanks for bringing that up, Mark, because that's another issue, especially in our area. A lot of resort condos.
yeah,
They may not be condo hotels where there's a desk that you check in and, you know, all that, but they have short-term rentals, and the association may actually own some of some of the properties. And those are gonna be in nearly double-digit interest rates to do condo hotels.
mhm.
So
know, Vista Bay?
Vista K, I think that one is a condo hotel, isn't it?
Is it Airbnb?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it-
Yeah.
Yes, forget it.
But they are, the owners are investors and.
Yeah, they can be investors and you can get a loan in there, but it's not gonna be through Fannie Mae.
Yeah, it's just, it's
So-
gonna be
So instead of
some
being,
kind of an
unfortunately,
investment.
guys, rates are like
portfolio or
mid-sevens now. Sorry.
Yeah,
So instead of it being mid-sevens, it's gonna be mid-nines, even double digits.
That's
Yeah.
a very good place to invest.
yeah. Okay, Mark, what else you got?
So with it being the usage rights,
Mhm.
do the condo hotels then not have to worry about any restrictions with short-term rentals? Because
No, there's no, it's all short-term rental. That's exactly the point of a condotel. They're all fully furnished and they're all short-term rental. You cannot stay in there long-term. That's exactly what it is. I mean, you could rent it for longer periods of time, but you can't get residency from it. You can't, it's all rental. So that they all have to be in zoned areas of short-term rental.
okay, my second to last question, for anyone on Zoom or in person, is there a condominium community they would recommend in regards to it's worth it to not only live there, but like fees are not like astronomical? I don't ever see it as like whenever I see a condominium, something I would ever recommend personally.
You mean like it has a good value to purchase and there's not high HOA? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, there'll be like times I'll see a listing and it'll be a little outdated, and then the HOA fees are like 10 grand for the year. So I'm just like, who is like buying these units? And are there certain communities or units that are worth purchasing if anyone knows? Is willing to share.
I mean, Vizcaya condos, people love them, but their HOAs are high for sure, but they sell very fast, I would say, in terms of condos. The view,
Return on their investment, it's good, is what I can tell by short-term properties.
return on investment is good in Vizcaya. The view, I could tell you, we've had a lot of those listed and they don't sell very easy, for sure. I mean, not a lot of the downtown condos, we haven't sold a lot of them, but their return on investment hasn't seemed to be very well downtown because I think their fees are so high. But that doesn't mean that they're not. I haven't seen them a lot lately, but I could tell you that that has been, it really depends on, I would have to say, a lot of condos, unless you're looking for an investment property, which a lot of times that's a completely different beast, you're looking out by UCF or something like that. But if you're looking, it's really based upon each person's criteria. Condos are very person specific, I mean, more so than houses, for sure.
And as a lender, and I don't want to poo-poo anybody who has condo listings, but and as an investor, I do not invest in condos.
No.
There's too many unknowns right now,
Mhm.
and the HOAs keep going up. The homeowner, you think you have a hard time getting homeowners insurance on your house, the condos, as this whole thing with the structural
Mhm.
comes through, they're just getting more and more expensive. And so there's gonna be, if it's not a special assessment, those HOAs dues only go up, they never go down.
Right.
So you gotta do your ROI, and as an investor, you do your ROI based on, you know, kind of, you have to have a pretty good number there. Because also, the other thing I have noticed, Airbnb per night rentals are you're getting less money for those now. When it
Well,
first
because the
started,
market is
yeah,
saturated.
Yeah, the market is saturated, so you're not getting the ROI previously, but it could work. I mean, and where I've seen people buy them because they can is on a 1031 exchange, because they've got to get a good
Mhm.
property in. So I have seen quite a few people buy them for 1031.
I think the reason why people a lot of times buy condos is for maintenance-free living. It's for that type of thing. So it's really dependent upon, you know, like who had that listing that, I think it was Emily, that's downtown. Well, those HOA fees are really high, but the condos are beautiful and they're mostly professionals, you know, doctors and attorneys. So they don't care about the fees
Yeah.
because of what they're getting in the location. It works for them. So it's really a very personal choice.
Yeah.
They can't keep up with the yards. They want to have all the amenities and they want the location. So again, it's a very personal choice.
But then they're used to better buildings as well.
Yes.
Especially the international buyers.
Oh,
So
yes.
you know, I lived in apartments all my life in Brazil, and
Mm-hmm.
they're well built. But then you come here and you have a different, especially in Florida, you have a different product, and people don't know that.
Mhm. I would say we built condos in Baldwin Park and those are so well built, concrete all around you. You can't hear
And that's
anything.
actually-
Yeah, but not everyone is built like that. So, you know, it really just
Exactly.
depends. And those hold their value pretty well, I would have to say. But, you know, it's really dependent, right? Because you have to pay in those. And this is another thing I wanted to bring up. For example, Baldwin Park, you have a condominium association. In a condo, you always have a condominium association. Can you stop your share for a second? Please do not use a homeowners association. You don't have a homeowners association 9 out of 10 times, guys. You have a condominium association. So that's why you're using the wrong documents. It's a condominium association disclosure. That's why you have condo rider A. So don't add the homeowners association documents with this. Okay? Now, unless you absolutely have, for example, Baldwin Park, where you also have a master association, which is a homeowners association. Now you belong to two. Now you must use a homeowners association and a condominium association. So what I want to do is go into a contract. Either one doesn't really matter. And we're just going to go to the end here. If you're doing this as a condo, condominium rider A, you do not pick homeowners association unless you're in Baldwin Park, Avalon Park, Celebration. Those communities, you would have a condominium association, which would be covered by your condominium rider, and a homeowners association. You have to belong to both. Guys, that's super fun. Okay. So you have to understand that. You have to make sure that you're not selecting a homeowners association for Vista K. Just using that one. I see that all the time. That is wrong. There is no homeowners association in Vista K. It is a condominium association. So that is something you have to be very, very clear on. All right? Everybody good with that? Now, when you're including all of the documents, if you want to, and you want to say other and list them all here, I'm good with that too. You can do that. It's a great way to show that they're included in there. You can do that. Doesn't matter, but you don't have to because you're on the buy side. Okay? Because just make sure, I would actually say, and I want to say I might even have it under clauses, and if I don't, let's add it. Let's see, we have the Airbnb host here. Appraisal. No, this is the as is. Okay, I will have Phil come up with some language for me that adds in about the structural integrity report. And I'll put it here under clauses. Okay, so that way you can add it in case you're buying with cash. Now, the other thing you need to think about when you are purchasing, with your buyers. This is really important. And I know we're running low on time. Are we okay? 6 minutes over. Almost done. But I got to cover this. Very important, guys. In condos, a lot of times, as we just heard from Maria, financing can get a little hairy. If you extend this closing, you have to extend your financing. In anything, really. Because if, let's say, you said that this was going to close in 30 days, so you made your financing 30 days. And then you extend your closing for another 10 days because you're still trying to figure out some financing things, but you didn't extend your financing. And then the deal falls apart. You lost the deposit. Guys with me? You have to extend the financing contingency along with the closing. I would do it on a single family home too. Anytime you represent a buyer and you extend a closing. That's excellent. Thank you, Siri. That's really weird, wasn't it? I don't remember asking her. Anytime you extend that though, guys, you also have to extend the financing contingency because this has happened in single family homes and it's happened in condos. It's very simple to miss it because you're concentrated on trying to help your buyers get through and you're just trying to make this work and you just do a simple addendum that you're going to extend the closing to such and such a date. And then it just doesn't happen with the financing. You're like, it's okay. We have the financing. No, you don't. Unless you extend both. So I want you always to think. Now, there's another way you can do it. You can either write a blank addenda that extends both, or there's a specific addenda that you could use that is, which one is it? Addenda to contract and sale. No, that's not that one. It actually allows you to extend. You can select what you're extending. Appraisal addendum, gap addenda, assignment addenda, auction addendum, backup. Condominium association addenda, extension addenda. There it is. It's right here. You guys see this extension addenda? You can extend the financing period and the closing date by checking both. This is a really good one to use. It's called the extension addenda to contract. Or you can use a blank one. I'm just reminding you that if you use the blank one, it's sometimes easy to forget to also extend your financing contingency. And so if you say buyer and seller agree, the closing date shall be, and you put the date, because remember, we don't say on or before because we don't have an effective contract, right? So you can't say on or before, you have to say this date. Then you have to say the financing contingency shall be extended to this date. You have to write both those things. Because if you didn't extend it. So, then I oftentimes would write all other terms remain in full force and effect. Those are 3 things I would probably write on that one addendum. But here you don't have to. You could just check closing date and financing period. And then have everybody sign it. It's a very simplistic addenda. And it takes all the worry right out of it because it puts it right down there. You guys like that one?
What did you say? All other things?
All other terms remain in full force and effect. Okay, does anybody like this one? This is really good, right? Extension addendum to contract. Okay, anybody have any questions before we end it? Because we're going to go to Lisa's pre-broker open. Is that what we're calling it?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Preview, I guess.
Preview broker open. We're going to give her an opinion of price because we're at 3-4. But should we be at 3-4? Live on Wednesday. It's a beautiful home live on Thursday. She's changing the things right as we talk. It's on Millionaire Row. It's from 12 to 1:30. Yeah? 12 to 1:30.
No.
It's across the street.
I thought it was.
But it's beautiful. Yeah. So I hope so. What was that?
Last question, Carrie. With what happened in South Florida with that building
Yep,
collapse
Surfside.
and things we hear about money laundering and stuff like that in the HOAs.
Oh yeah, so many fun
Is
things.
there a way we would kind of get insight to this is a bad purchase if we have a buyer looking to purchase a condo and
Well-
there's no issues?
That's why, Mark, it's probably good, even if the buyer was cash, I would say run it by like Maria. Let the lender look at it because the lender will know a lot of stuff about it
It would
beforehand.
be worth them spending the couple $100, $500 to to do the questionnaire to get all the documents.
Yeah,
Because you could be getting into something you don't realize you're getting into.
yeah. Because
Okay.
they may not need the condo questionnaire, but you want it. I would want it. You know, even if it's a cash deal, they don't need it, but I would want it.
Can they do the condo questionnaire before they do the offer? I mean,
I get an offer
No,
accepted, you wouldn't want to spend any money yet.
no,
You
yeah.
can always get out of it through your due diligence period.
Yeah, you have your inspection period. That's one thing, guys, you know, I hate the as is. Anybody who knows me knows I hate that, but I probably would use an as is on a condo. I really would, because most of the things that the residential contract protects against are more, you know, really in a primary, in a single family, to be honest, the roof, the plumbing, the polybutylene pipe. I mean, there's more things. Remember, in the condo, you only own from the sheetrock in. So I would say in that, I would probably err on the side of caution for the buyer and probably go with an as is, which I hate, because you know, I hate them, but I probably would. I know I said that. I feel all kind of nauseous already. It came out of my mouth.
can I ask another question?
Yeah.
Yeah, Maria, how long is it taking the condo questionnaire usually?
Couple
Does
of
it
days.
Yeah, a couple of days, usually not very long at all. Usually it takes longer for the customer to give me their credit card information than to get it back.
Yeah.
Usually they're pretty good about getting this.
Yeah.
And who does it? Do the association, the condo
Yeah.
association? Or, I mean, I know you ordered it, but who does answer all those questions?
Management company
Yeah.
or not, most of them have their own management company, and that's the people that fill out the form.
Okay, so if you do a 10-day inspection, you should be fine. We should be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would suggest on a condo, I would err on the side of caution too on the inspection.
Maybe do a little longer.
Yeah, instead of like a 5 or 7, go 10 or 14. Just especially if you're asking for the milestone and the integrity report for the reserves, you know, that gives them a little extra time to get that for you. You know, if it's a new condo, it's different. Not that we have that many new condos, but if you're doing those things, you just want to check that out. You know? Okay, any questions on condos? I think we covered a lot. Did you learn anything new, Teresa, or did you know everything?
Yes.
Okay, that's excellent.
I
Mhm.
have, Elizabeth, go ahead. You've been trying to.
What? Elizabeth?
I have a question if Elizabeth is not.
Elizabeth, do you have one? Okay, go ahead.
Is it-
Okay, anybody have a question? No?
I do. Carrie, what would be your recommendation? I know we talk about it, but like to end this, if I'm representing a buyer, what
Mhm.
would be the documents that I should be worried about them getting them?
You need all of those documents that they state in here, the articles of incorporation. So right here on the condo questionnaire, which I mean, the condo rider A, it'll tell you right here, we'll go here. Condo. And you know, this is where you got to really be careful. If you're representing the buyer, what should happen is that the listing agent should have included the condo rider A. And this is where you got to be, that's the wrong one. You got to be really careful that they didn't check those boxes, because if they did, you better make sure you're getting all of the, oh, see, this is the receipt, by the way. Who asked, this is the one that says they've received the documents. Who asked me that? Somebody asked me that. It is right here. It's right there. But where's my condo rider? A disclosure, condominium, it's property disclosure, condominium, here we go, rider A. So take a peek, right here, it tells you all the documents that you need to be receiving,
Oh,
right here.
see them.
Current copy of the declaration, condominium, articles of incorporation, bylaws and rules of the association, copy of the most recent year-end financial, and frequently asked questions. Now, you want to make sure that they haven't selected A and you don't have that. Because B, you want to select B if you're representing the buyer that says it's avoidable until you receive that. And then you've got to make sure that you're requesting it, that you're not saying you don't request it. Because more than likely, they probably will have checked that you're not requesting it and they rechecked A, that you have it. It's one thing if you do get it all, right? Then you don't have to, but I would still be very careful. You could cross that out, check this one and have you initial this one. Cross this out and say you're requesting it. Because otherwise, you've just started your 3-day right of rescission. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Did they have this filled in? Right here, the date that they said?
No, they had it back, but the date was.
Well, see, that's another thing.
Right.
They're some full of crap. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Well, so there is everything about condos. Oh, did you see? Oh, I don't even think you saw that because I didn't share that. Did you see what I was doing? Okay, probably not. But anyway, now you heard it. Anybody else have any other questions? Because I think we went over, I'm sorry, but I hope to see some of you at the broker preview. And we have our, I think, Ninja Mastery on Thursday, right? I think that's Thursday. Let me just verify. Yep, Ninja Mastery Thursday, 10:45. Have a great rest of your week, guys. And I'm sure I'll be seeing you in the offices. Bye.
Thank you.